Real World Redneck Podcast. Redneck hacks that'll make you laugh. Practical outdoor tips and stories to inform and entertain you. All right. Real World Redneck here. Episode 12, Jerusalem Artichokes, the ultimate edible landscape. The Jerusalem artichoke is kind of like a potato, only with some notable differences that we're going to talk about today. I feel like it's the ultimate edible landscaping. I have gotten more into that over the years. I'm all for making your house look nice with some landscaping, but if you can add something to that and feed your family with it, I just think that's the ultimate. So like a blueberry, for example, you plant a blueberry, it makes a nice looking bush, decorative, but you also get the fruit off of it. So Jerusalem artichokes, we'll talk all about those. But first, what did I forget? Episode 11 was about turkey hunting. We just covered the basics. Check that out if you missed it. One thing I forgot to mention is that turkeys actually like the rain. They're kind of different from deer, I feel like. A lot of times if it's raining, you don't do any good deer hunting. You actually do better turkey hunting if you can stand being out there. Just a light drizzly rain, not a heavy downpour. They don't like that. But if it's just a light drizzly rain, they'll be out in it. You'll see them more often, actually. So don't let that keep you from going turkey hunting if it's raining. So on to episode 12, Jerusalem Artichokes. Now these podcasts, as you've noticed, are not highly produced. I try to just give you good info. You're not going to hear a lot of drama in the background. I don't like drama in real life, in my relationships. I don't like it on my podcasts. You listen to some of these, and you got all this dramatic stuff in the back, and I guess other people like that. I realize that I'm a bit of an outlier there, but maybe you're like that too, and that's one of the reasons that you listen to this, but it's not by accident. I'm not trying to be rinky-dink. I'm just trying to focus on the main thing and just make it more realistic. One of these podcasts that I listen to, I really like it, but you can tell that the guy doesn't try to put a lot of the background enhancements in it, because he doesn't even, you can tell he's recording on a Mac because you can hear every time he gets an email, you can hear that in the background. And all you got to do is, put it on airplane mode or whatever, and he could avoid that, but I don't care. It's the content that I'm there for. And I think he purposely does that just to make it more realistic. I don't do that to that level, but I am also not going to spend a whole lot of time overly producing it. And I thank you for tuning in, listening to it the way it is. Thank you for forgiving me for my occasional bumps and background noises that you hear, and for overlooking those. Please refer this to your friends if you think they might like it. The website is realworldredneck.com. And if you go there, that's kind of a launching point for all the different ways that you can listen to this podcast. There's the iTunes link is there. There's a Facebook page. I'm not going to go through all the handles and different ways to find this stuff, but all you really need to remember is realworldredneck.com. You go there. There's a player. You could listen to this show that way. They list the YouTube channel is there, the Google Play address, the show notes are there, Twitter handle, Facebook page, all the different ways that you want to get updated about this show you can find there. So realworldredneck.com, that's kind of the headquarters to go. On to Jerusalem Artichokes. I had never heard of this until last year, and I was listening to Jack Spirko on the Survival podcast, and he mentioned these things called Jerusalem artichokes. And he went on to explain just the basics of them. And so I got mine from eBay. And I'll put, if that link is still there where I got my source for them, I'll put that in the show notes today. You only got to buy these things once, because they will, it will just become a cycle, and you'll end up with the tubers, and you'll be able to grow your own year after year, and they just multiply. But what this thing is basically a potato. It's a tuber, and you plant it in the ground. It comes up, and it makes a sunflower-looking plant, and very attractive, like for borders. It spreads like wildfire, so you don't want to put it everywhere, because the thing gets out away and can actually be kind of invasive. But I put it on just like on the edge of the pond dam and corners where I was just getting weeds and things in there. Put them in there, and they grow up, and they're really hardy. You can plant them in the spring, the tubers. You can honestly plant them like in the winter, like a tulip bulb too, and they'll come up the next spring. They come up ahead of other things and start growing, and they choke out other things. So it's an excellent border plant. But in the fall, when you dig them up pretty much like potatoes. And when you go to cook them, you don't peel them. You just can. The ways people do different things with them, but the best way I have found is just cook it in the microwave like you would a baked potato, and just then cut it in half and butter it, and it's quite good. It tastes similar to a potato. I kind of liked it better, actually. They are healthier than potatoes. They have a less of an impact on blood sugar, and it's a slower insulin spike. And so diabetics will sometimes use these as part of a staple for their diet. So it's very good, very easy to grow. The thing is, you miss some of the tubers when you harvest it, and they stay there in the ground, and then next year it'll just come back on its own. And I'm experiencing that here at the farm. Some areas where I didn't get them all dug out, they've grown back, and they look really nice this year. So I've got my stand started. I've paired off some of them and moved them to different spots. I'm experimenting with them. You know me, I've got to experiment with a food plot angle on it. So I moved them out to the edge of the field, and I'm going to experiment and see if the critters like it. If the wildlife like it, then it may be some kind of a perennial food plot, I'm hoping. But that's my angle there. I've got some of them growing by my trees, by my deer stands. Another interesting angle that I experimented with last year was growing them in containers. Have you seen this potato barrel idea? I tried that last year too. You put some soil in like a 55-gallon drum, or whatever, your Rubbermaid totes or whatever container that you have available. Punch some holes in the bottom of it. You put soil in it. Then you plant potatoes in it. They start to come up, and as they grow a few inches, you add soil to it, layer after layer, until you get all the way to the top. You can bury the potatoes plants, and they'll shoot back up out of there. And theoretically, they will, everywhere you bury them, they'll set on more potatoes there. And I don't know, the YouTube video that I looked at, when it was time to harvest them, they had like 100 pounds supposedly of potatoes in there. That did not work when I did it. I did something wrong, or I don't know, but I had like 8 little old potatoes in there that weren't any good. So it didn't work for potatoes, but I thought I would try that with the Jerusalem artichokes. So I put some tubers in there and did the same thing. When it got about half full, I quit putting the soil in there and just let it shoot out the top. They went ahead and flowered. I watered them and everything throughout the summer last year, and then they died back, and I just left it sit there. And I thought I would check, and lo and behold, when I dumped that out, there were all kinds of these little tubers in there, the Jerusalem artichoke tubers. So that was a roaring success. And you also might want to think about that, because the container will help contain them, and they won't get out of control, because they are invasive at times. They can really get away from you. So that's how I'm growing mine now. I've got them both ways. I've got them loose in the soil in beds, and I've got some going in containers, and that's just kind of continuing to propagate itself that way. So I won't have to buy any more, I don't guess ever, because they keep on making more. So it's just a really neat plant, a really neat landscape, edible landscape. You plant them, if you're going to plant them in the soil, like I was talking about. You make a prepared bed, just the first few inches, grind that up, till that up, and then you just plant them. Just pretend you're planting potatoes. Plant them a couple inches deep, cover them up, and give those a try. Like I say, I'll put those links in the show notes to where you can get them. I've seen them in the Burpees catalog too, different garden catalogs. to get you started with the tubers. You can find all this at realworldredneck.com. Thank you guys so much for listening. That's about all I got today to chew on. It is time to go outside. Real World Redneck Podcast. Redneck hacks that'll make you laugh. Practical outdoor tips and stories to inform and entertain you.